All right, so we finally got all the juicy, sick deets on the 40 series graphics cards. Literally just announced minutes ago. So let's go ahead and talk about what we know, because now they're no longer rumors. The new H7 series from NZXT offers tempered glass side panels, toolless panel removal for easy installation, front and top side 360mm radiator support, and integrated cable management bar for clean cable installs. To see the complete feature set and variations of the H7 available, including the H7 Flow, follow the link in the description below. So GTC is going on right now, and Jensen is actually still talking about server stuff, so we moved on and we're talking about the graphics cards here. So they have officially announced the RTX 4090 and the RTX 4080. A little bit different this time around because last time they announced the 3080 and then the 3070, and then the 3090 was kind of like a, oh yeah, by the way, and then they sort of showed that off. Let's go and talk about a few things here. First and foremost, just the important stuff right out of the way. The RTX 4090 is available October 12th. So you can expect reviews to be October 12th or maybe the 11th. On the 30 series, the 11th was the date. Who knows when that's gonna be. They did not show any board partner cards at all. But we already know board partner cards are going to exist on this launch because of the leaks that have already been shown and what was expected to be an EVGA card, which was talked about at the whole thing about EVGA leaving NVIDIA. So not surprising there was no mention of board partner cards. Maybe they'll mention at the end of the show, but regardless, no mentions of those. Interestingly enough, they look exactly like 30 series cards, which is kind of weird because the Founders Edition card had launched with 10 series Pascal. So we saw it with Pascal, Turing, and Ampere, and all three Founders Edition cards look different. However, this time it looks like they stuck to the pretty staple 30 series look, only it's about as fat as a 4x4 from In-N-Out, or I don't know what Whataburger has, whatever. I don't like Whataburger, so go ahead and fight me. 450 watts. The reason why we know that is because of the chart that they showed with Ada Lovelace's like performance per watt chart, which is funny because the vertical, once again, NVIDIA GraphWorks, there's no vertical reference number. It's just a random line with a dot that says relative performance to who knows. But the chart in terms of wattage goes all the way out to 450, which kind of aligns with the rumors there. Price, Founders Edition card coming in at $1,599. What we're seeing here is a $100 bump up from the 3090. Now in terms of price for the RTX 4080, he says it starts at $899, and then the one they showed, the Founders Edition card, was $1199. And the reason for that is there's two SKUs available at launch. It's gonna be a 12 gigabyte version and a 16 gigabyte version. It's kind of weird, I'm not sure why. There's the two, there's only 4 gigabytes difference there. It's not massive. It's not like the 3080 where it was 10 gig and then I remember 20 gig with double the VRAM, but that's more than likely where the price difference is coming in there, why they're showing a $1,200 model on screen. One, because it's Founders Edition, and two, that's a 16 gigabyte version for the Founders Edition. So the $899 starting is more than likely gonna be like a really low version reference board, 12 gigabyte version of it, which is realistically gonna probably be fine for just about everybody in terms of just gaming. But if you need the more VRAM for whatever use case, then I guess $1199 is what you can expect to pay, probably starting point, and then AIB pricing like flowing all over the place from there depending on, I don't know. If I were a manufacturer, I don't know if I'd wanna make more 12 gigs or 16 gigs. It's weird, because now you have a choice to make there. But we won't even know about that till November, so it doesn't even matter. I think what's gonna be happening here is a lot of people are gonna be really upset with the pricing. We knew 40 series was gonna cost more. And the reason for that is the fact that this is 3rd generation RT core. Remember, 1st generation was Turing. 2nd generation was Ampere, which is 30 series, and now 3rd generation RT cores on 40 series. They also announced the new DLSS 3.0, which is being integrated on games like Microsoft Flight Sim. They talked about Portal RTX. They talked about their mod store, or well, their mod package, where basically other game developers can just basically implement a ray tracing renderer into their game so that they can start bringing ray tracing to more titles. It's one of those things where 20 series didn't have an amazing adoption rate right off the bat because the biggest selling point for the price increase was ray tracing. But there were like no ray tracing games. It's like buying a next generation console where there's only a couple of games available for it. Only now, ray tracing's been around for going on 5 years, so now there's a lot of titles that'll be able to take advantage of it, and even indie developers can use this to get ray tracing into their games to make all of this do stuff. So one thing I noticed here is that early on in the keynote, he talked about the full die size of Ada Lovelace. And it's interesting because the full size is over 18,000 CUDA cores. But we know the RTX 4090 doesn't have that many. And obviously they're gonna have it in their deep learning type cards. You know, their servers are gonna be usually full size. But obviously there's going to be a 4090 Ti coming out eventually, just based on the headroom there is between the rumored 16,000-ish CUDA cores available in the RTX 4090 to the over 18,000 he mentioned on the full-size die. Just something to mention there. In terms of processing power though, over 90 teraflops. So he did mention that it's running on the TSMC 4N platform, and they're saying a 2 to 3 times speed up for ray tracing performance versus in the 3rd generation RT core versus the 2nd gen RT core. Now, one thing that's funny is when he lifted up the 4090 to show it, that sucker was thick. He looked like he was almost struggling. He was like, I introduced to you the 4090. Whew, it's big. And even when they showed it in the rendered system there, it looks like it's at least a 3.5 slot to 4 slot card. The 3090 was massive, and this thing looks like the 3090 with another slot at least added to it. The 3090 is a 3 slot card. We know it's gonna be running on PCIe Gen 5.0 power because of the 450 watt. So if you're running an older power supply, you're gonna have to either use adapters, which are almost surely gonna come with all of these cards because power supply companies are gonna be scrambling to make new PCI Express plugs to terminate to the new 5.0 plug. It's gonna probably trigger a huge upgrade for a lot of people, especially if you're buying a 4090, because they mentioned a significant uplift in performance from 3090 to 4090. Now let's talk about this real quick here. In terms of pricing, the 3090 was $1499 and the 4090 is $1599. Now I can tell you right now, not that many people shop at that price point. But if you are, same thing for the 4090, let's just say theoretically you could get a $900 4090 or 4080. I don't know if that's gonna happen. It's gonna be very difficult, I think, for people to produce a decent board with enough cooling to keep a 4080 cool at $900. That is a $200 uplift from the price of a 3080. So 3080 was $699, 4080 is $899. So that's $200 uplift, but you are getting way more than that percentage difference in performance between a 4080 and a 3080 for that $200. So if you are shopping in that price point and you don't have a 30 series now and you're just gonna try and get a 4080, the price increase really sucks for the consumer, but you are getting something more for that. It just would have been nice to see all these cards land in the same pricing slots. That's what the rumors initially thought. In fact, we were being fed some leaks and we were being told $1499 for 4090, but based on what we know from talking to AIBs and also what EVGA had to say about pricing and no one knowing, and so many people, even in NVIDIA, telling me that Jensen decides the price is what it is prior to him getting on stage, it sounds like he did a price increase at the last minute. Maybe not, but it sounds like there might have been a $100 bump. 4090 at $1599. Let's say you were one of those folks that bought a 3070 during the shortages for $1,500. If you spent that money then, it's almost like if you had spent it now, if you could theoretically get one, you would be getting like 3 times the performance or more than a 3070. 4090 will be interesting. I'm just really curious as to what the total effect is gonna be once we get them in-house to start testing for realistic power supply wattage necessary. We're being told 1,000 watt is gonna be the recommended power supply wattage for 4090. If you're running like an Intel 12th gen, 12900K, you're gonna be running a future 13900K. We know that those can pull over 300 watts once you start overclocking them, so you're realistically gonna need a bigger than 1,000 watt power supply to run your system. You know you're gonna need PCIe 5.0 plugs or adapters, and adapters just look ugly, so I think people are gonna wanna at least source replacement cables. A lot of power supply manufacturers are already messaging me saying that they're gonna be offering replacement PCIe cables that plug into their power supply but terminate to the new 5.0, so you don't have to buy a whole new power supply unless you're under the recommended wattage, then you're gonna have to anyway. A lot of power supply manufacturers are already showing their next generation designs, which will come with PCIe 5.0 and the older PCI Express cables out of the box, that way you'll have both. So we aren't gonna know anything about 4080 until November, and 4090 available October 12th. Now, if the rumors are true, then we should see a lot of these on shelves. And at $1,599, and you know the AIBs are gonna cost that much as well, then if you're shopping at that price point, you're probably gonna have a card available for you. But I think most people, at this point, gonna probably run out and buy a 30 series, because if 4090 is available on October 12th, and November is when we're looking at 4080, And there was not even a mention of a 4070. There'll be a whole new keynote for that. You probably aren't gonna see 4070 until Q1 of next year because November, maybe December, maybe. But this reminds me of 30 series though, because what we saw with 30 series was a pushback. There was a pushback of availability, not because of the fact that there were too many and they're gonna try and spread it out like they're doing here. It's because there weren't enough, and they were trying to ramp up warehousing and allocation and get as many available to ship as possible so that one, they could fight the scalpers and come up with a system, and then two, have more on hand so it looks less like a paper launch like people were calling 30 series. I guess time will tell now what we can expect with 40 series launch. Not a whole lot of info. Unfortunately, these keynotes tend to be very high level. I think it was only about the first 25 minutes that was even talking about Ada Lovelace's specific like GPU design. And then they were talking a whole lot about Racer X, which is their ray trace demo where it's all physical bodies, soft body, all lighting is ray traced, all reflections, everything is real time, high FPS ray trace with that Racer, I wish that was a game that you could actually go in and play around with, like not just move stuff around, but actually drive the cars like they were showing. That'd be kind of neat. But yeah, just a lot to kind of absorb here. And it's not gonna be until tomorrow when the actual like workshops start that we get to attend that tell us more in depth about the product itself. All of that stuff is obviously gonna be under embargo, so we're not gonna be able to even talk about that once we get the information until they tell us, which is probably gonna be either the 12th or the day before the launch on October 11th. But DLSS 3.0, we know 2.0 is great, 3.0 now it's gonna take some time to get implemented into more titles. 2 to 3 times speed up for ray tracing performance, as mentioned on 4090, and over 18,000 CUDA cores on the full-sized Lovelace. But I guess the question is gonna be, are they gonna launch the 4070 next or 4090 Ti? Because we know there's room there. Which means that 4090 Ti now, I'm expecting $2,200 would be the price on that. Anyway, I wish I had some more in-depth information for you, but unfortunately I don't. So there you go, guys. Take with that what you will. Are you gonna buy a 4090? Are you one of those people that's like, I don't care what the cost is, I just want the top dog? There's plenty of people out there that's a true enthusiast, and I'm one of those people on many things. Or are you gonna just kind of say, screw you NVIDIA, I'm not supporting you during this? Are you gonna wait for 4080? Are you gonna wait for 4070? Or are you just gonna go buy a 30 series card now, start playing games, and then worry about 4090 when the 5000 series comes out? Sound off down below how you guys are gonna proceed. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next one. And this is gonna be a very, very busy fall. Major launches: Intel GPU, AMD GPU, NVIDIA GPU, AMD CPU, Intel CPU. 5 major launches happening this fall. I'm not gonna get any sleep.